Well, you are listening to the single longest running nationally syndicated sports talk show of all time, The Jim Rome Show, coming to you live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts studio. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every single day. My name is Mark James. That's Mark with a C, James. I'm no stranger to the jungle. I again today will be the Jimmy Garoppolo to Jim Rome's Tom Brady. It's great to be back home. For a lot of you, it's the first time you're hearing me, coming to you live from Boston, unequivocally the best sports city in America, 10 world titles in the last 16 years. But this today, I was thinking about what I was going to do going into today's show. And I'll say this. I did not see that coming. Huge piece goes down the field, and I thought the season was over. But then, again, I remembered it's only episode 4 of Game of Thrones last night. That, to me, whether you watch the show or whether you don't. And one of the things I did last summer, is I was down in Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida. I binge-watched Breaking Bad, The Wire, and Game of Thrones, especially Game of Thrones, because I had to get all caught up going into this season. Last night was epic, and if you're not watching Game of Thrones, I don't know what the heck you're doing. That was insane. And I'm not going to spoil, because I know there's a lot of people out there, for whatever reason, you get a chance to watch it last night, so I'm not going to tell you what happened, but you better watch it ASAP, and do not, and I'm not one of those people that when I'm watching it live, I'm going to do a Marv Albert play-by-play. But last night's episode, epic, unreal, sick. And I can only imagine what next week's episode is going to bring. Now, when you think about Game of Thrones, I transition this to sort of the real-life game, which is coming up, which training camp is in full effect. The NFL season that we are all waiting since Super Bowl 51 back in February in Houston at Reliance Stadium when Tom Brady and the Patriots down 28-3 with 2:12 left in the third quarter, walked off the field victorious for the second time in the last 3 years and for the fifth time since 2001. And then you see why certain franchises have not experienced that since the 80s, or in some cases, the 70s. Don't call it a comeback, because Jay Cutler, a.k.a. Jeff George Part 2, is back in the NFL. A poster child for apathy, laziness, horrendous leadership, an interception machine waiting to happen is coming to an NFL stadium near you, especially if you're in the AFC East, or should I say AFC Least. He signed a 1-year, $10 million contract with potentially $3 million more in incentives after Ryan Tannehill is pretty much done for the year, being diagnosed with a partially torn ACL. Now, I can tell you, undoubtedly, the folks up at Patriot Place in Foxborough are laughing their asses off right now. So I'd like to start the show to do an AFC East roll call of quarterbacks inside the division outside of New England. And let's start with the Buffalo Bills, who have not made the playoffs since Bill Clinton was president, Beverly Hills 90210 was on the air, and Tommy Hilfiger was actually cool back in 1999. The Bills still haven't gotten over losing not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 Super Bowls in a row. They bring to the table Tyrod Taylor, who's backed up by T.J. Yates and Nathan Peterman. Who in the blue hell is Nathan Peterman? I never heard of him. I wouldn't recognize him if he wore a billboard on his front and back saying, "I'm Nathan Peterman." Next, we have the poorest excuse of an NFL franchise this side of Cleveland and Jacksonville, the New York Jokes, jokes, who still are living in the 60s going way back to Joe Namath, or maybe the 80s with Richard Todd, or the 90s with Vinny Testaverde. The Jets put out in the field this year Christian Hackenberg, Bryce Petty, and Josh McCown. LOL exclamation point. I mean, these dudes couldn't score in a brothel with a fistful of C notes, and they're going to knock off the Patriots? But last and certainly least, we go down to South Florida. Dade County, Broward County. The Miami Dolphins, with their star for attention owner, Stephen Ross, who puts orange carpets for pregame as if it's like an Oscar Awards or an Emmy Awards before every Dolphins game, with, quote, A-list luminaries like Gloria Estefan and Marc Anthony. And I used to live in Miami, and I can tell you there's a lot bigger celebrities down on South Beach than Gloria Estefan and Marc Anthony. Well, their future Hall of Fame quarterback roster includes Matt Moore, Brandon Doughty, and David Fales. And now it includes Jay Cutler. Jay freaking Cutler. A guy who has been nothing more than an albatross and a cancer to the city of Chicago for the better part of the last 7-8 years. And I saw a tweet yesterday on Twitter. By the way, you can follow me there. My handle is Marc James, M-A-R-C James. I saw a tweet yesterday saying, congratulations to Miami Sports Radio, because now you get to bitch, moan, and complain about Jay Cutler for at least a year. Oh, and I know there's those Dolphins fans who are still living in the Bob Greasy, Larry Zonka era of 72 and 73. Oh, Jay Cutler wasn't that bad. Oh, he had his best statistical season 2 years ago in Chicago with Adam Gase as his offensive coordinator. Great. And what was their record? 6-10. This is a guy in Jay Cutler who lost his job last year to Brian Hoyer, American Hoyer story. He was also replaced at times over the course of the last 2 years by Matt Barkley and Jimmy Clausen. But this is the dude that you just gave $10 million to with a potential for $3 million more in incentives? And for Jay Cutler, I'm sure his wife, the former reality TV show star from the Hills, Kristen Cavallari, I used to see her in South Beach all the time. She's probably loving life right now. He gets to go back to the NFL. He's going to a team who actually made the playoffs last year. I don't know how they did it, but they did. And now you bring Jay Cutler to save the day. Forget about the GOAT Tom Brady and Jimmy Garoppolo. The Patriots could go undefeated in the AFC East at 6-0 with third-stringer Jacoby Brissett. Hell, the Patriots could probably bring back Steve Grogan or Tony Eason and go undefeated in 2017 in the AFC East against that division. I think the Patriots would probably have a tougher time going up against Alabama and Florida and LSU in the SEC than they would some of the teams in the AFC East. At least I know that when I look at the quarterbacks in the AFC East outside of Foxborough, I can unequivocally tell you that USC and UCLA have better quarterbacks than every team in that division not named the Patriots. It's a joke. And this is where we are from an NFL standpoint, that Jay freaking Cutler, who was signed with Fox to a 3-man booth with Kevin Burkhardt and Charles Davis, now he's taking his talents to South Beach, or his turnovers to South Beach, a la LeBron James. The only difference is that LeBron went to 4 straight NBA Finals. LeBron won back-to-back titles for the city of Miami, which hasn't been done since the 70s with the Dolphins. And this is why the Dolphins are the Dolphins, and that is why the Patriots are the Patriots, getting ready to win their 3rd out of 4 Super Bowls coming up this season. The Dolphins just don't get it. Now, you could say, well, who else is out there? Well, that's true, but why would you pay Jay Cutler? I think the Dolphins had a better shot with Matt Moore. Matt Moore knows the system, been there for a while, has been the ultimate team player, and now you pay in a guy who, let's face it, this dude is Jeff George Part 2. He's got all the talent in the world. He shows signs of being that top 10 pick. And then it all comes crashing down. That's Jay Cutler. Oh, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, there's one other guy out there. And I'm going to get to this, and we're going to get to this coming up. And I'm going to take your phone calls as well as 800-636-8686. Colin Kaepernick, who has been passed over now by the Seahawks, by the Ravens, and now by the Dolphins. And I'll get to why he's being passed over coming up next. Your phone calls, 800-636-8686. Also, huge show today. Billy Corbin, the director of Cocaine Cowboys, and those epic 30 for 30 ESPN documentary movies, The U and the U Part 2, will join us later this hour. Next hour, Teddy Atlas to break down Mayweather-McGregor, and then the man who started it all at Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy. Dave Portnoy, Stool Presidente, will be coming up in the third hour of the show. My name is Mark James, and this is the Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio.
You're listening to the Jim Rome Show.
I think you'll get used to it, and you just don't get it. Keep the cup set.
Back on the Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio. Mark James here with you. Billy Corbin, the director of Cocaine Cowboys, award-winning filmmaker, will be coming up in about 15 minutes or less than that. And then coming up next hour, Teddy Atlas and Dave Portnoy coming up in the third hour of the show from Barstool Sports. They are basically everywhere right now. They are ubiquitous. They have taken over the world. We'll talk to him coming up in the third hour of the show, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The number to get in is 800-636-8686, 800-636-8686. Now it's time to get to the most divisive, polarizing story, especially in the world of social media. And everybody who has a Twitter handle, a Facebook page, an Instagram account, has an opinion on Colin Kaepernick, including all the unemployed trolls on social media, like I blog in my mother's basement.com, I've never kissed a girl on the lips that wasn't my mother.com. But now it's time for me to shed some much-needed objective perspective on this situation. First and foremost, I will say this without the shadow of a doubt. Colin Kaepernick is being blackballed by all 32 NFL teams, period. Let's just state that for a fact. And I'll state that. I'm no Colin Kaepernick fan, believe you me. But he is being blackballed. And if you want to look at blackball hypocrisy, look no further than America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. You don't think Colin Kaepernick, who had a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio last year, 16 TDs, 4 interceptions, would be an exponential improvement over recently signed backup Luke McCown? Luke McCown? It's an abomination that Luke McCown is still in the league. Do you know how many touchdown passes Luke McCown has thrown in the last 8 years? 0. As many as me and all of the clones out there. 0. I kid you not. Go Google it. Luke McCown in the last 8 years, 0 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions. Yet, for some reason, you don't think that Kaepernick would be a better backup in Dallas to a guy like Dak Prescott, who he could come in and spell, and if something ever happened to Dak, Kaepernick could come in and fill in quite seamlessly? How about this? The one place I thought Kaepernick would be a perfect fit for, his style in their system. This city is extremely progressive. The hometown of Jim Rome executive producer Adam Hawk, Seattle. Pete Carroll, Richard Sherman, Michael Bennett all publicly endorsed him. The PNW, Pacific Northwest, would easily embrace him for his views, as controversial and polarizing as they may be. But instead, what did the Seahawks do? Mr. Nordstrom, Paul Allen, when it came time to finding a backup to Russell Wilson, they went out and signed Austin Davis. So you have Luke McCown and Austin Davis who have backup quarterback jobs, and Colin Kaepernick is sitting at home right now. What the NFL owners, and for everybody out there, and what I thought that Colin Kaepernick did was completely un-American. Taking a knee during the national anthem, but I also understood that in this country, the greatest country in the entire free world, he has the right to do so. But it was un-American. I think he was trying to come from a good place. There was well intentions, but he didn't execute it the way he should have. Plain and simple. But the bottom line is this. Here's the ironic dichotomy that is transpiring right now before our very eyes. As un-American as Colin Kaepernick was, no matter what point of view, and by the way, for everybody out there, I'm apolitical. I don't fall on the right side or the left side. I can't stand politics. I hate politics, and I sure as hell don't like to mix politics with sports or religion with sports. We're in the toy department of life. That's where I want to stay. So I am apolitical. I have, believe me, I am not for either party. Plain and simple. But Colin Kaepernick had the right to take a knee. Should he have done it? No. It was a bad business decision. But you know the ironic dichotomy in all of this, as un-American as Colin Kaepernick's stance was last year during pregame with the national anthem, the owners are as un-American by blackballing a guy who should have a spot on a 53-man roster, at least as a third-string quarterback. You could do a lot worse than Colin Kaepernick. So the owners are being as un-American to him. But here's the objective perspective I was talking about before. I get it. Because the owners, like Colin Kaepernick, who willfully decided to not stand up for the Star-Spangled Banner, the owners who are private businessmen, remember that operative word, private, they also, whether I agree with it or disagree with it, have the right to not put Colin Kaepernick on their roster. You know why? Because Colin Kaepernick is bad for business. There's no doubt about his football talent. This guy took the San Francisco 49ers to a Super Bowl 5 years ago and came within a possession of a drop pass, I believe, by Randy Moss or Crabtree of winning that game against the Baltimore Ravens in New Orleans. So we know he can play. Is he as good as he was back then? No. Has opposing defensive coordinators figured him out? Yes. He was 3-16 as a starter the last 2 years. He was 1-10 last year. But the owners have the right to blackball Colin Kaepernick, whether I like it or I don't. Whether Colin Kaepernick likes it, we know he doesn't, or he doesn't. The owners can do what they want to do. They are not beholden to anything or anyone but the three letters, NFL, the shield. So you can say all you want. And Kaepernick last year, who was the perpetrator, now is turning around, and a lot of people in the world of the social media, broadcast media, are trying to advance their own agendas and their own narratives on what they believe. So they're going to get on their sanctimonious soapbox and pontificate to the masses about why Colin Kaepernick should have a job. Oh, we all know he has the talent to have a job, but he made a conscious, concerted decision last year to become the most polarizing athlete that we've seen since O.J. Simpson. And here's the worst part for Colin Kaepernick. He's never committed a felony. He's never committed a crime. Hell, I don't even think he's ever been arrested. So he's never run afoul of the law. So I'm giving him that. But now he's on the outside looking in. You know why? because he's bad for business. Bottom line, he's bad for business. Plain and simple. You know it, and I know it. Steve Bisciotti did his homework as the Baltimore Ravens owner. When he talked to all of his season ticket holders, talked to the fans, and he knew if he brought Kaepernick to Baltimore that he was going to lose a lot of repeat customers, and those customers who pay the big money for the PSLs, for those season tickets, they're the ones he does not want to piss off. Same thing with John Mara with the New York Football Giants, who said basically that he's never seen anything more that drew the ire of his fan base than Colin Kaepernick. So this is what it's come down to. Kaepernick, in all likelihood, and I still think there's a slight glimmer of hope that one day, maybe this year, maybe not, but I will say this, I think by the end of this season, some team is going to take a flyer on him. But if they don't, I will tell you this, if by the end of the 2017 NFL season, Colin Kaepernick is not on an NFL roster, I think his NFL career is over, a la Ray Rice and Greg Hardy. And the worst part of this for Kaepernick, he never laid his hands on a woman. He never took performance-enhancing drugs or smoked a lot of weed like Josh Gordon or did something like that. This is what the guy did, and now he's being punished for it. And you can say what you want and what you will, but the bottom line is he put himself in this position. 800-636-8686 is the number to get in. Now, I'm no Kaepernick fan. I'll be the first to tell you, but I will tell you this. When he made that decision to do what he did last year, the owners now banded together, and they said, guess what we're going to do? You're bad for business. Everybody knows that Kaepernick's better than Luke McCown or all the Jets quarterbacks, and I agree with Richard Sherman and everything that Richard Sherman said about Kaepernick. I agree with it. Richard Sherman's in the right on this one. But the bottom line is he's bad for business, plain and simple. And when you're bad for business in the NFL, all the owners are going to decide to go away from you. We'll talk to Billy Corbin, the director of Cocaine Cowboys, coming up next. And we'll talk to him about Jay Cutler coming to Miami. You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is Marc James, M-A-R-C James. But first, here's a CBS Sports Radio update with...
Live from Boston, this is the Jim Rome Show with guest host Marc James.
Back in the jungle. This is the Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio. Coming to you live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts studio. Marc James here with you. Phone number to get in is 800-636-8686. Coming up next hour, Teddy Atlas. We will break down the most overrated, overhyped, oversaturated money grab suckfest known as Mayweather-McGregor, which is less than 3 weeks away. Then I'm going to try to save each and every one of you $100 on that pay-per-view. At least you're going to do what I do. Like, go to a sports bar and watch it. Pay the $10 or whatever. Don't spend $100 on this thing. We'll save you. And Teddy Atlas is going to be coming up next hour to talk about that. Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports, El Presidente, will be coming up in the third hour. Your phone call is 800-636-8686. You can also hit me up on Twitter. My handle is Marc James, M-A-R-C James. Already getting a lot of good tweets. This is from Ike Beltran, said 99% of the clones are stroking out, trying to keep up with Marc James lingo. Google has been overwhelmed with the search dichotomy. That's a pretty good one. Yep, I'll drop some 75-cent words on you every now and then. That's basically what I'll do, plain and simple. And I'll get back to the Kaepernick thing as well. Joining us right now is the man who directed the award-winning Cocaine Cowboys and the man who set the bar on ESPN's 30 for 30 movies way back in December 2009. with the U and then followed it up with a great sequel, The U Part 2. Billy Corben, also a must-follow on Twitter. Billy Corben, Corben is his Twitter handle. Billy, your initial reaction, and I saw your tweet yesterday about a guy with a Dolphins hat robbing a convenience store, and you tweeted that out. That's Jay Cutler and what he's doing to the Dolphins right now. Has that changed over the course of the last 24 hours?
Let's get our facts straight. Let's not start off on the wrong foot. He was robbing a Boost Mobile store. First of all, in a Miami Dolphins cap. That is correct. And I think we're having a little fun at the Miami Dolphins expense because, well, Miami Dolphins. I mean, I've been a Dolphins fan since I was born, a long-suffering Dolphins fan, which might be redundant, of course. So obviously losing your starting quarterback in August is classic Miami Dolphins. So again, having a little fun, I think, at his expense. I personally am a Kaepernick, in the Kaepernick camp, but professionally, I don't really see what other choice Gase had under the circumstances. Needing a starting quarterback in the NFL in August, I mean, short of calling up Tim Tebow from the minors, I don't really know what his options were, considering, again, this is a quarterback he's worked with. It's a quarterback who knows his system. Hopefully it's a little more plug and play than having to build a new offense, which is a pretty solid offense, by the way, and a pretty solid defense in the Miami Dolphins going to the playoffs for the first time in, 60 years this past season.
Yeah.
So I kind of get it. He's between a rock and a hard place. And I think, again, I don't get paid millions of dollars to make these kinds of decisions, so I have to kind of defer to the experts, if you will. And this is a bad situation. I think he might have done the best thing under the circumstances.
All right, Billy, but the circumstances as they may. You mentioned Colin Kaepernick, and I just did an entire segment. I could do an entire show on Colin Kaepernick right now. Here's the thing that's very perplexing is that they were saying that if Cutler decided to stay in the broadcast booth at Fox, that the Dolphins' next choice would have been Christian Ponder? I mean, I'm Florida. Like, that's the guy that played at Florida State that hasn't won a game since 2010. I didn't even know he was still in the league. He's sort of the Nick Lachey of the NFL, Billy Corben. What I mean by that is this. He married his wife, and he was the star and the breadwinner. And now she's the star and the breadwinner, and she's like Jessica Simpson now.
Well, I'm not going to cast aspersions on his personal life, but I don't know who the second choice was. We're also hearing it being reported that Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, did not have a kind of ad hoc ban on Kaepernick because of the potential controversy of bringing him in, particularly in the Miami community with his, you'll recall his Malcolm X and Fidel Castro T-shirt that caused quite a stir down here amongst our very large and vocal Cuban community. So I don't know who the second choice was. I don't know if that's accurate. But I mean, if so, I mean, obviously, maybe the problems are worse than I thought.
Well, here's the thing, Billy. Billy Corben joins us here on the Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio with Marc James. Billy, the bottom line is this. The Dallas Cowboys signed a guy who has 0 touchdown passes, as many as you and me, in the last 8 seasons, in Luke McCown. The Seattle Seahawks signed Austin Davis. Now, the Dolphins will never know because, it is what it is. And quite frankly, I thought that Adam Gase should have stuck with Matt Moore, but he felt comfortable with Cutler. That's his decision. The Dolphins gave him 10 million reasons of why he should take his talents to South Beach and 3 million more if he meets all those incentives. But when you're talking about Luke McCown, who, Colin Kaepernick, I believe, threw more touchdown passes in the month of October last year than Luke McCown has in his entire career. The fact that Luke McCown has a job, the fact that Austin Davis has a job, this comes down to this. He is no doubt being blackballed. But here's the irony in all this, Billy, is the fact that he's being blackballed for being un-American, and the owners are being un-American back to him by blackballing him. It's sort of this 2 wrongs don't make a right scenario.
As you said, you could do a whole show. I could probably do a whole 30 for 30 mini-series on Kaepernick and hope that I will someday, in fact. The truth of the matter is I think as you're getting at, this is not about football. And I think one of these franchises is only a one more quarterback injury away from Kaepernick probably having to step up and get a job. At the moment, yeah, I mean, he's totally being blacklisted here. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's reasonable. I hope that, not that I wish an injury on any of the starting quarterbacks, but I really hope that this guy gets an opportunity. Because as you said, if it is about football, then there's no reason in the world why this guy doesn't have a job compared to some of the people that do.
Also, Billy, I'll mention this in that you can't overstate this enough. And believe me, I'll be the first to tell you, I don't like Colin Kaepernick, but I can also look at a thing from an objective perspective and say that this is what it is. The guy's never committed a felony. He's never committed a crime. He's never even been arrested that I know of. The only thing that I know he's guilty of.
Well, that was obviously his mistake. He should have done dog fights or beat his wife, obviously. Then he'd have a job.
He would probably have a job. I don't know on the domestic violence anymore. See, Greg Hardy and Ray Rice, but there is something to be. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott's been involved in some domestic situations, never been arrested, but there's been a couple things, and Jerry Jones is sticking by him. I think too, Billy, is at the end of the day, the owners are about profit margin. They're about bottom line. And Colin Kaepernick, let's face it, and you said it, I lived 5 years down in Dade County in South Miami. Went to the U like you did. He's bad for business. He wore a Fidel Castro T-shirt, and then he sympathized with him. And he talked about how Fidel Castro was great for education in Cuba. I mean, if you like that at that point,
I will say there's no such thing as bad publicity. Okay, I will say that Kaepernick had the top-selling jersey in the league, just last year. I will say that I would have bought season tickets to the Miami Dolphins had they signed Kaepernick. I think a lot of other people feel that way. Maybe some people would have canceled their season tickets. You know what would have cured that? Winning. Winning cures all. If he came in and played good football and started clicking and made it happen, everybody would have looked past all of the noise. They would have let him kneel. They would have let him lie face down on the damn field during the national anthem. He was winning football games.
Plain and simple. And I'm going to quote Kaepernick here. This is what he said about Fidel Castro. One thing that Fidel Castro did so is that they have the highest literacy rate because they invest more in their educational system than they do in their prison system, which we do not do here, even though we're fully capable of doing that, end quote. He also compared law enforcement in America to, quote, slave catchers. So these are things that come back on him, and the talent's there. There's no doubt about it. But when you say and do things like that, at the end, Billy, those owners, they didn't get to being multi-billionaires by making bad business decisions. Okay? They didn't do it.
Well,
they are in those spots.
When it comes to Miami, I just have 3 words. Remember Ozzie Guillen.
This is true. Yes, he did. And then he's basically been blackballed from Major League Baseball. Billy Corbin joining us here on the Jim Rome Show. For those of you that have never seen Cocaine Cowboys, in the film that Billy did over about a decade ago, it is worth, just find it. You can Netflix it, however, Amazon, whatever. Billy, wherever you go, and I know you get approached about people coming to you about the U and the U Part 2 and all the 30 for 30 documentaries that have come thereafter where you set the bar back in December 2009. But Cocaine Cowboys, Griselda Blanco, who was a real-life, complete, total gangster drug kingpin, she made Michael Corleone and people like Nino Brown and Tony Soprano. She made all these characters look like Disney characters, like Mickey Mouse, Pluto, and Goofy.
Well, I think it helps that she was real. I think it helps that she was a woman, just in terms of people's intrigue and interest in her, and the fact that you now have not one but 2 apparently announced feature films based on her life. One with Catherine Zeta-Jones, the other one with Jennifer Lopez. So obviously a lot of interest around that world and that character. But I think because she was La Madrina, she was the godmother. So you've had a lot of godfathers. You had a lot of, as you said, Nino Browns. You've had your Tony Montanas. You've never had really a woman who was not only a cocaine queenpin, if you will, but who also was as allegedly and notoriously as bloodthirsty as she was, kind of in an effort to enforce a trade that was obviously a very male-driven machismo kind of a business. She needed to be just as tough, if not tougher, to enforce her business. And so I think there's been a bit of a mythology that has built around that since the documentary Cocaine Cowboys came out 10 years ago.
How about the U? We've seen a lot of great 30 for 30 movies. Yours, the one that started all. I love the one on SMU. I like the Bad Boys with the Pistons. Without Bias on Lenny Bias' story. The Benji Wilson story was great. But the U, when people see you and they want to talk to you about the U or the U Part 2, what's the most common question that you get?
What was wrong with poor Bernie Kosar?
Bernie. Yeah, that wasn't the greatest look for him.
And Bernie will admit I make fun, but I love Bernie, and he'll be the first to tell you that he was out of sorts in that interview. He was going through his bankruptcy at the time after his divorce, and he has been very open about his concussion issues that he had. He called audibles, for 13 plus years in the league, and didn't wear a mouth guard and took some hard hits through the years. And so he was very candid later about his condition. But that's a very popular question. And people ask me, what the hell is Le Batard wearing? That's another thing.
Le Batard, yeah. Here's the thing. I've told you this before. It's going to be the 10-year. I don't even want to call it an anniversary, but the 10-year mark of the murder and death of the late great Sean Taylor, who I went to school with at Miami, and with all due respect to the NFL Network, their whatever you want to call it was on Sean Taylor fell way short. You're a Miami guy. I've implored you to do this when I ran into you at the Miami-Florida State game last year, and I'm saying it now. It needs to be Billy Corbin, ST26 on Sean Taylor. And unlike the U and the U Part 2, you have to put me in this one, Billy, okay?
Well, absolutely. You're going to star in it, in fact. But no, I saw the NFL Network piece on it, and I was a little disappointed as a Miami and a University of Miami alumni, and of course a filmmaker. I don't think it really did him or his family justice. Someday it might be something I would like to do. Fortunately, even though it's been so long, there's finally been justice done for his family, and you have all of the murderers sentenced. But remember, we also had the 10th anniversary this year of the Brian Patta murder, which has gone unsolved and remains unsolved to this day. No suspects that I'm aware of, no arrests, no people of interest, and it's been 10 years since that happened.
Mm-hmm. Billy Corbin, follow him on Twitter. It'll change your life. We always appreciate you joining us. And Billy, if you haven't checked it out, the U Part 2, Cocaine Cowboys, Broke, you name it, and a lot more to come in the future. Thanks, Billy.
Cocaine's.
There you go. All right, Billy. All right, it's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the clones, get to ask me a question, brought to you by the fine folks at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Go to cbssportsradio.com/askthepros and submit your question. Be listening later in the show when I might answer your question. Summer's heat can cause your battery fluids to evaporate. Get your battery tested for free, and if it needs to be replaced, the professional parts people will help you find the battery you need. I did at the one there in St. Pete. I can tell you that much right now. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. All right, the next two segments, I will take your phone calls. 800-636-8686. That's 800-636-8686. I want your thoughts on Kaepernick, and I want to hear what you think about my thoughts, because I've got another perspective coming up on Kaepernick and why he is being blackballed, because he is. We'll get to that, Teddy Atlas next hour, and the man who started Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy, coming up in the third hour of the show. I am Mark with a C. James. This is the Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio. Here we go with hour number 2 in the jungle on CBS Sports Radio. I am your host for the day, the sub-pimp in the box, the Jimmy Garoppolo, Jim Rome's Tom Brady. That's Mark James, Mark with a C. James. You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is Marc James. As I come to you live from Boston, the greatest sports city in the entire world, with the best sports fans in the entire world. And I don't just say that because I was born and raised in New England. I say it because it's true. And the fine folks at WEI Entercom Boston are nice enough to let me use their studio for the day. Phil Zachary, Joe Zarbano. And I'm looking outside the window right now. It's like the coolest thing ever. The Celtics are building the Red Auerbach Practice Center and Facility, which is supposed to open up in a year. Next to it, the Bruins practice facility, Warrior Ice Arena. We got Patriots training camp going on right now in Foxborough. And, oh, by the way, the Boston Red Sox are in first place in the AL East. Oh, did I mention that the city of Boston and all of New England has won not one, not two, not three, but 10 world titles in the last 16 years? 10. You could take Cleveland, Toronto, Jacksonville, Milwaukee. They don't have that many titles combined, I don't think. I sure as hell know they don't combine the last 20 years. But you could take that city, and you got 10 here in Boston, and more coming up probably this year as the New England Patriots get ready to defend Super Bowl 51 as they've won 2 out of the last 3 titles. So I'll get to your phone calls. 800-636-8686. 800-636-8686 is the number to get in on the program. We're going to go to the Colin Kaepernick thing because it's so polarizing. It's so divisive, but we just can't quite get away from it. We can't. And the irony, the dichotomy in the situation is that Colin Kaepernick, who is being punished, who is being ostracized and castigated for his controversial decision to kneel during the playing of the national anthem last season. And the NFL owners, you don't mess with their bottom line. They'll take a chance on a guy who's got a checkered past, a guy who's got some things going on. But if you mess with their profit margin, with their bottom line, you will be completely blackballed from the NFL. Is Colin Kaepernick being blackballed? Yes. Is it right? No. Is he good enough to be one of the top 64 quarterbacks in the NFL? Absolutely, unequivocally, incontrovertibly. But did he put himself in this position? Absolutely, unequivocally, incontrovertibly. Did anybody hold a gun to his head last year to do what he did? No. I think he was well-intentioned but misinformed, and he didn't realize the residual effects and unmitigated consequences that would come thereafter. And lo and behold, the Dallas Cowboys sign a guy who hasn't thrown a touchdown pass since George W. Bush was president, and Luke McCown. 0 touchdown passes in the last 8 years. The Seattle Seahawks, Austin Davis, over Colin Kaepernick. In that city, progressive, liberal, accepting of all those things. The New York Jets, the freaking Jets, have Christian Hackenberg, Bryce Petty, and Luke McCown's brother, Josh McCown. The Dolphins took Cutler yesterday, but then you look at that roster and the quarterbacks that they have there. Brandon Doughty, David Fales. And the Bills, well, there's a reason why they haven't made the playoffs since 1999 with Rob Johnson and Doug Flutie. If you own a business and somebody does something that's bad for your business, you have every right in the world to not hire that person. That's all. What the NFL owners are doing isn't illegal. It's immoral to a certain extent. It's not illegal. They have every right to do so. And just like Colin Kaepernick had every right to kneel during the national anthem. Here's the difference. The NFL owners don't need a job. They're multi-billionaires. Their money makes money when they sleep. Colin Kaepernick does. And the difference between the NFL owners and Colin Kaepernick is they sign the front of the checks. Kaepernick, when he's employed, signs the back of the checks that they endorse. Plain and simple. Hence the dilemma of Colin Kaepernick. Your thoughts on that? 800-636-8686. Teddy Atlas coming up later this hour. We'll talk Mayweather-McGregor, less than 3 weeks away. $100 on pay-per-view. Still tickets remaining at MGM Grand. I believe the average ticket price is $3,500. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care if you're Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or Jeff Bezos, the guy who founded Amazon. If you pay $3,500 for that thing, you are an idiot to go to that fight. You're an idiot. I don't care how much money you have. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your money. I want to watch it. I just don't want to pay for it. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Oaktown, the home of the one team, I don't think this year, but I think in 2018, could potentially dethrone the dynasty that is the New England Patriots, the Oakland Raiders. To Mark in Oakland. What's up, Mark?
Hey, what's going on? I got to disagree with you with you saying that it's bad for business, that Kaepernick is bad for the business. Reason being is because even though he's not on a team right now as we speak, he has his jersey is in the top 20 in sales. Like, his jersey is out.
Mark, you must look at you've got to look at the big picture, Mark. The jersey, who cares about? What is it going to do to affect the revenue at the gate? People will boycott. The Giants, the Ravens, they did their homework. They talked to their PSL holders. They said they would boycott and never buy another ticket to go see the Giants and the Ravens. They'll do that at other stadiums. I think the place that he should have gone to, I still believe he should go to, is Seattle, because I don't think the people there would boycott. I think they would. It's the home of the 12th man. It's the greatest home field advantage in pro sports. But please, jersey sales does not equal gate revenue. And not to mention the negative publicity and the public relations nightmare that comes along with it. Hey, Mark, I'm going to let you make your point. But Colin Kaepernick is bad for business. Tim Tebow, he's not bad for business, and Johnny Manziel's not bad for business because they bring cachet in different realms. Tebow for positive ways off the field, Johnny Manziel for negative ways. But the NFL owners don't want 3-ring circuses for backup quarterbacks. They don't want Fox News Channel and CNN and MSNBC coming to their games and to their practices asking non-football related questions. That's bad for business, Mark. You can't be that nearsighted, man. Jersey sales are a very small fraction. This is bottom line. This is pissing off your fan base forever. That's what it comes down to. You've got to know. You've got to understand that, Mark. Danny in Pennsylvania, you're up next on the Jim Rome Show. What's up, Danny?
Yeah, what's going to happen in New England when Tom Brady finally retires? What are they going to do for a backup quarterback for him?
Well, it depends what year that is. I don't think that he's going to retire anytime before the 2021 or 22 season. But right now, the backup's Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be there in a year, but for right now, it's Jimmy G. Joe in Wisconsin, you're up next on the Jim Rome Show. What's up, Joe?
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Yep.
First of all, I want to start with, I can make an argument that I think Packer fans are the best sports fans in the world, but that's an argument for another time. I want to put my 2 cents into the whole Colin Kaepernick thing, as you know, everybody in the sports world does. I want to preface this by saying I do not care that he kneeled for the national anthem. Whatever. Do what you want. I really couldn't care less. But what a lot of people don't understand, and I think you might have said it, I'm sure you said it at some point, there is an unwritten rule, an unwritten ratio that exists in not only the NFL, but really all sports in general, that the talent level that you bring to your team must outweigh the distractions that you bring and the controversies that you bring to your team. If your talent level doesn't, you're probably not going to find yourself on a roster. Right now, we can both agree that Colin Kaepernick is talented. Absolutely he is. I mean, just a few years ago, I'm a Packer fan, obviously, he torched the Packers in the playoffs for, I think, almost 200 yards rushing alone. Yeah. Absolutely destroyed their defense. That was a hard game to watch. But he's regressed a little bit over the past few years. They tried to turn him into a pocket passer. That didn't work out so well. And right now, the distraction that he brings, the negative media press that he would bring to whatever team signs him, that, at least in my opinion, does not outweigh the talent. Or, that outweighs the talent that he brings. If he was elite, if he was like an Aaron Rodgers, a Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, if you could almost guarantee that he gets your team to the playoffs, I have no doubt someone would sign him. Absolutely.
Well,
in a heartbeat.
Listen, the one, Joe, you and I'll be the first to tell you, you make up tremendous, valid, salient points. The one thing I will say, I'm with you. Colin Kaepernick's game from 2012 to 2016 has regressed more than LeBron James' hairline. It has. It is. But at the end of the day, he's still one of the top 60 quarterbacks in the league. You're bringing him in just for backup because, as you know, see Ryan Tannehill, see any other quarterback that one hit away from the end of their season, if not the end of their career, you're going to need a backup. When bleep hits the fan and your starting quarterback gets hurt, you're going to need it. I think that a place like Dallas would have been good, but here's the problem. Hall of Famer Jerry Jones wouldn't bring in a guy like Kaepernick because the people in the great state of Texas wouldn't put up with everything that Colin Kaepernick stands for. And Jerry Jones, at the end of the day, is arguably the smartest businessman in the history of the NFL in terms of making money. Not winning Super Bowls. It's been a while since Jimmy Johnson left town, but making money. JC in Sacktown, Sacramento, you're up next on the Jim Rome Show. What's up, JC?
Hey, just to be honest, I really don't understand why everybody's so surprised about what the NFL is doing. I mean, they've done this like throughout the history of the league. They've always been, I say, not conscious when it comes to racial insensitivity. Like, this is a league, they have a Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule is basically affirmative action for coaches saying that we recognize there's a underlying tones of racism and bigotry within our league. So we have to implement a rule saying that you have to at least interview a minority candidate. They have the name Redskins. They wouldn't let blacks play quarterback. They wouldn't let blacks be in the league. These things that are happening throughout the history of the league. The average age of the owner is 70 years old. So why are people surprised? I'm not surprised. If he was good enough to be a starter, if he was a top 10 quarterback, he'd be on the roster right now. So it's about money. They have the breast cancer awareness month, right? Some people, their parents or their grandmother died from breast cancer awareness. They watch football for football. So all the people who cry about, oh, I want politics out the game, you have no problem with them because they want to sell jerseys. They want to sell pink merchandise. It's about money. They don't care about race. They don't care about what's right. All they care about is who's going to make me money. Really, nobody's going to sit out and watch no games on a mass level. Yeah, there's going to be people who boycott the league and not watch some games, but the NFL is telling me as a black man, well, you know what? It's probably going to be some black people that don't want to watch the league based off of what's happening, but we don't really care about your feelings because I haven't been hearing any conversation about those group of fans, about that fan base. It's always a fan base of, well, we're going to have people not watch the games because he is playing. But what about the people who are not going to watch it because he's not playing? You see what I'm saying? Like, this is their MO. This is what they do. And it is what it is.
Well, you know what it comes down to, JC? I appreciate your impassioned phone call, and you make a lot of good points. This situation, though, let's remove race from the equation if we can. I see where you're coming from. 32 NFL owners, all of them are white. They're all white. And the average age is over 70. But you have to understand one thing as well, and we both agree on this part. When you affect the bottom line, that's ultimately what's going to do you in. And Kaepernick right now, I hate to say it, but the word I can use from an NFL owner standpoint, and I haven't talked to any of them, but I'm just reading the tea leaves. He's toxic. He's a pariah. And you can't touch someone that's going to hurt and compromise your bottom line. That's their thought process. I'll take more of your phone calls, 800-636-8686. Don't go anywhere. Teddy Atlas coming up in just about 15 minutes. I am Mark James, and this is the Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio.
You're listening to the Jim Rome Show.
You're in a 5-minute...
Welcome back. The Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio. I feel like the scene in The Departed with Leonardo DiCaprio and Jack Nicholson. Every time I hear this song, I'm shipping up to Boston. I am in Boston.
World needs plenty of bartenders.
That's right. 2 weeks. Severance with pay. There's plenty of bartenders. Dude, Alec Baldwin was great in that movie. We'll talk to Dave Portnoy coming up, who is from Boston, the New England area, the man who invented Barstool Sports years ago, and it is has blown up. Blown up monumentally. We'll talk to him coming up next hour. Teddy Atlas coming up in about 10 minutes to talk about Mayweather-McGregor. In the meantime, we'll get to your phone calls as well. 800-636-8686. It's 800-636-8686. Kaepernick, it won't go away. The last call, JC in Sacramento, we're not indicting what happened in the NFL for decades and decades in your eyes. We're talking about this isolated situation. Here's the worst part, is that Kaepernick had every right to take a knee, and he did. And the owners have every right to not sign him, and they're not. At the end of the day, the owners have the power. They sign the front of the checks. They own the franchises. They call the shots. So it's all about the game and how you play it. Kaepernick played his cards wrong, and right now he's too toxic to take a chance on. The risk far outweighs the reward. His game is not 2012. It's not 2013. The dude lost his job to a guy who looks like Sunshine from Remember the Titans and Blaine Gabbert. The guy's gone 3-16 the last 2 years, and he was 1-10 last year as a starter. So let's not let facts disrupt a great story in our opinions, but those are the facts. 800-636-8686. Barry in Tennessee. You're up next on the Jim Rome Show. Rick in Tennessee,
Hello.
You're up next. Go ahead, Rick.
Yes. Hey, how you doing?
Great.
I just wanted to comment. You said he's never slapped anybody in the face, but, you know, he slapped Lady Liberty in the face. And you're saying that the owners are being immoral, but where was the immoral outrage when they wouldn't hire Tebow? And Tebow's, like you said, has a lot better record than some of those guys that's sitting 1-10. So nobody got on the owners when they wouldn't take a chance on him, but yet you're getting it because of Kaepernick. And JC is throwing out the racial charge. You know, Kaepernick's half white, and he's raised by white parents, so he's more white than he is black. I'll shut up and listen to you.
I hate when this becomes a race situation, and eventually with Kaepernick, that's what it becomes. You know, with Cap, it becomes a race thing. I hate when it gets to that. Your argument on Tim Tebow is extremely weak because Kaepernick actually has the skill set to play in the NFL. You can talk about records all you want. Hey, look up Vince Young's record as a starting quarterback in the NFL. I believe it's like 31-16. So it's even better than Tim Tebow. And Vince Young had the skill set to play as a quarterback in the NFL, and then he didn't. And then everybody figured him out, and that was it. Tim Tebow, bottom line was, he was a spread formation quarterback who didn't have the skill set to adapt to the complexities of an NFL offense. He had awful mechanics, did not have a strong arm, couldn't take snaps under center, couldn't read defenses. And he was inaccurate amongst all that. And that was on a good day. The Broncos won a playoff game that year because Tim Tebow hit Demaryius Thomas on a slant in motion where the Steelers went jailhouse blitz by Dick LeBeau, and Demaryius Thomas took it 80 yards to the house. The Broncos won in spite of Tim Tebow, not because of him. Tim Tebow had every chance with the Broncos, with the Jets, with the Patriots, with the Eagles. He couldn't even make the team on the Patriots and the Eagles, and he didn't even start a game on the Jets. And that's why he was out of the NFL. And that's why he'll never play another down the NFL at quarterback. You can't compare that to Colin Kaepernick, plain and simple. Coming up in less than 3 weeks, Mayweather-McGregor, which to me is the most overrated, oversaturated, overhyped, money grab suckfest that we've seen since Mayweather-Pacquiao. But at least those two guys, it was supposed to be competitive. Teddy Atlas. We'll talk to him, one of the best boxing analysts on the planet and a former trainer of Mike Tyson. You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is Marc James, M-A-R-C James. That's all coming up next here on the Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio. But first, here's the latest sports update.
Live from Boston, this is the Jim Rome Show with guest host Marc James.
Back in the jungle, CBS Sports Radio. I'll get to more of your phone calls coming up. Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports will join us next hour. You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is Marc James, M-A-R-C James. Less than 3 weeks away, Mayweather-McGregor. The fight that has piqued everybody's interest and intrigue will be coming up live from MGM Grand and of all places, Sin City, Las Vegas. And the man who's one of the greatest boxing analysts of all time, former world-class trainer, way back in the day when Mike Tyson was training with Cus D'Amato, and certainly a friend of the show, Teddy Atlas, back here on the Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio. Teddy, we're 3 weeks away. And, you know, I've talked to you before about this. Give me, like, not only an optimistic standpoint, a realistic standpoint, because you're as real as it comes. What chance, and the greatest hypothetical dream world scenario for Conor McGregor, what chance does he have to not only win the fight, what chance does he have at being competitive against Mayweather?
You probably have a better chance of seeing Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi have a candlelight dinner.
Oh, no.
And that might – actually, here's the worst news of that. That might be more feisty than the fight. See, maybe that's the worst news for the viewers out there, the listeners out there, because if you want reality is that you're not getting the best Floyd Mayweather. I mean, forget about McGregor. Let's put that aside just for a second. You know, but we understand that he's not a skilled boxer. I hope we understand that anyway. He's a striker. He's an MMA guy. He's a guy that can grapple, get on the floor. That's his strength. And I got all the respect in the world for the MMA guys. Tough son of a gun. All of them. But he's, you know, I know many Class C boxers that would destroy him in the ring, quite frankly, because they merge all the skills and the experience it takes to merge those skills and to be able to execute them mentally, emotionally in a ring, in a boxing match. You know, they move their head, they control range, distance, they put combinations together, they mentally are calm enough to, and emotionally calm enough to see the whole picture. He's not that guy. He can't deal with a fighter at that level. But Mayweather's not that guy that they're selling right now, that they're promoting right now. He's 40 years old, he hasn't fought in 2 years, and he took the fight on short notice. Okay, let that get into people's heads. And look, am I protecting boxing a little bit? Yeah, damn right I am. I'm a boxing, you know, boxing's my life. I want people to understand that are going to have, you know, they're going to make it into a sort of a contest between MMA and boxing. I want people to understand this is not the elite Mayweather that we saw 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. It's not, and it can't be. Now, having said that, it's still a kind of fight where I cannot envision McGregor being the caveman he is. And listen, I'm not trying to be negative when I call him a caveman. I'm just saying in a boxing ring, he is primitive compared to a scientist like, a defensive specialist like Mayweather. But what I am concerned, not that it'll be competitive, not that it'll be anything athletically venturous, but that it'll be dragged out. Because you got a 40-year-old Mayweather and you got a McGregor, and here's the real X factor. Everyone, they're selling, and I don't blame them, they got to sell it. They're selling, destruction. They're selling fire. They're brimstone and fire. They're selling, atomic bombs, things exploding in the ring. But the reality is, McGregor's not a guy who gets his fangs out and seeks and destroys. If you look at, I did my homework. I'm out there covering the fight. I had to look at his fights, and I appreciate him. And he has power in his left hand, especially when he has 4-ounce gloves on, which we won't have on, and especially when he has a level of opponent who is nowhere near the level of opponent of a Mayweather. But having said that, he's a counterpuncher. I watched him. His mentality is actually closer to Mayweather's. At all his big fights, he drew the guy in. And then he counterpunched, and he did it good, especially for a striker. And again, against a guy at that level that he could get away with that. But that's his mentality. That's his temperament. It's not to have fangs and blood coming out of his mouth and he's going to go after the guy. And if he is consistent with that mentality, and we already know Floyd made his living with that mentality, Floyd takes the air out of the ball, what are you going to have? You're going to go back to Dean Smith back in the old days when he was the great college basketball coach of North Carolina, and he went into the four-corner defense or the four-corner offense where they killed the clock. That's what you might have.
Teddy Atlas joins us here on the Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio with Marc James. The one thing about this, Teddy, and I know you're a boxing guy, but the one thing I will say, and I got to cover, I was lucky enough, or perhaps according to the public, unlucky enough to cover Mayweather-Pacquiao a couple years ago in Vegas. Do you think that the reason this is happening is because, and let's just state for the record, I know you're a boxing guy, but let's just state what it is. Boxing has been dying a slow death now for decades. Do you think that this is a case of they're doing this three-ring circus, let's do UFC versus boxing? Because it's just a money grab. This is all, it's a money grab, Teddy.
Well, listen, it's a carnival, and it's an event. It's not a fight. It's not an athletic contest. It's an event. There's no doubt about that. And like the great Barnum and Bailey once said, there's a sucker born every 2 minutes. And look, again, I'm not trying to insult people out there, but people can be honest with themselves. They allow themselves to be suckers. We all do. People want entertainment. People nowadays have a short attention span. They want to see something entertaining. They want to see it explosive. They want to see it fast. And we have a morbid curiosity. There's a reason why you have a terrible TV show named Jerry Springer that people still watch. I mean, why would you watch Jerry Springer? Seriously, why would you watch people embarrass themselves and do these kind of acts on television? You watch it because there's a twisted mentality. There's a morbid curiosity. You want to be entertained at that kind of level and seeing crazy things happen. So you put Jerry Springer on. This is a version of Jerry Springer. And it's just going to cost you more money to watch it. And look, if they put a movie out there that had a great, romantic plot to it, and it was a tremendous actors and stuff, you'd get some people come, but you wouldn't get as many people as you're going to get when you put the next Spider-Man movie out there. That is where we're at in our society now. And people want that quick impact, bang, give me some action right away. And they figure they're going to get that, and they're selling that. And does it shine the light on boxing for the moment? And, of course, on MMA, which Dana White has done a tremendous job promoting and developing that sport. and that brand. Does it put a light on it? Yeah, it puts a light on it. People will watch it. People will come to watch it that are boxing fans. People will come to watch it with MMA. But the crossover people that just want to be entertained, that just want to see something explode, that just want to see something crazy happen, they will listen to all the banter, and they will come. They will follow. They will be there.
Teddy, when Teddy Atlas joins us here on CBS Sports Radio, when you look at this fight as a whole and the entertainment factor, and people will say, well, Teddy, hey, it couldn't be any worse than Mayweather-Pacquiao, which ended up being a bust. Let's face it, it was. I look at this, and I just look at I'm looking at from an odds maker standpoint, and I want you to handicap this fight. Give me a percentage that McGregor has at winning this fight from 0 to 100, with 100 obviously being the best. Give me a percentage.
The best percentage or the best opportunity or the best chance for him to win, I truly believe, with my experience in this game for my whole life, is that, of course, you could use that old cliche if he gets really old, Mayweather. But even there, he's 40 years old. I've already I think I've put the case out there that he's a diminished product. He's not the Floyd Mayweather that they're going to sell. But even at that, his best chance, McGregor's best chance to win is to lose. And I really mean that. And he can win by losing, by cheating, by breaking the rules, which is possible. Really, don't think it's not. To come in there low, get him down on the ground, to ground and pound him, and proclaim himself the emperor of the universe, the baddest man on the planet, and his brand goes through the roof. Yeah, he loses, technically, but he wins in the real world. In the real world, he wins. His brand goes, yeah, he gets fined, but he still makes more money on the back end. And who's to say that he doesn't have a contract, a deal with some promotional brand that's a bad boy brand that wants that kind of stuff, and they're going to pay him $20 million if he does that? Who's to say that that's not possible? Or who's to say that's not plan B? But for me, I live in a relative world. I live in a practical world, in a real world. I've been in boxing my whole life. You don't move your head, you get knocked out. You get hit. You get hurt. That makes you live a practical, real life. And so I'm being very real about this, no more than I am any other time. And there's no room for anything else. And for me, that's the only way he wins. There's no other. I can't come up with a tangible answer to you to say, well, this is how he wins in a real way of winning. No, that's the only way I can see him really winning.
Teddy Atlas here on the Jim Rome Show with Marc James on CBS Sports Radio. Mayweather talked about the money. We know what is his motivating factor. For UFC, they sort of get a win-win on this no matter what happens, Teddy, because they're not they shouldn't win. They have very small percentage chance. You're going up against, and even though Mayweather is not what he was 5 to 10 years ago, he's still one of the greatest defensive fighters of all time. My thing is this, Teddy. If Pacquiao couldn't touch Mayweather, how the hell is McGregor going to touch Mayweather?
Listen, I'm going to say it again. 2 years removed. The Pacquiao fight is 3 years removed, 3.5 years removed. 2 years removed since Floyd has ever put a glove on, been in the ring, boxed in a competitive way. And he's 40 years old. And nobody's looking at this part. He took the fight on quick notice. Yeah, he did. He took it on 2 months, maybe 9 weeks, maybe a little more. But I don't think that Floyd normally would take a fight at 40 years of age, being away from the ring 2 years. He's got too much pride, too much care about his legacy. And that legacy is all attached to that 0 and at the end of his record. I don't think that normally and this is not normal, but normally he wouldn't take the fight without more time to get ready. But maybe it's the IRS tax issues. I don't know. I'm not in his personal business. I'm not going to venture to that because I don't know how impactful that is, how real that is. But all I know is I don't think Floyd, being the careful guy he is, with the way he makes decisions in the ring and outside the ring with his business when it comes to boxing, the way he chooses his opponents, the way he navigates his legacy, his career, I just don't think that he would normally say, yeah, I'll take it on 2.5 months' notice. No, I need 6 months. I need 5 months. But he did. He took it real quick, and he did that world tour, which didn't allow them to train properly during that period of time. I really think that you're not gonna obviously see a vintage Floyd, but you're gonna see possibly a lot less than that. And again, you still got a guy in there that has no chance to be competitive with him because of what we're talking about as far as physical rules. It's just the physical world of the reality of his ability versus Floyd's ability, his mindset in the ring, in that kind of place compared to Floyd. And not only that, but the length of time that the boxing match takes place. When you see a guy striking, what do you see? You see 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. You see 20 seconds. You don't see 12 rounds of a guy standing and striking. You don't, it's a whole different world. So I don't see him being McGregor being able to be competitive. But all the things I just brought out, again, I can just see a stretched out sort of fight where there's not a lot happening, where he can't touch Floyd, he gets jabbed to death. If he was to just go all the way in and just press the fight, well, then there's a chance Floyd's forced to counter him and where Floyd can get rid of him. But other than that, and again, I don't think that's McGregor's temperament. I think he's smarter than that. Other than that, I just see a drawn out, sort of event where at the end of the day, I don't know that a lot of people are going to be happy. I think, like you said, like after you had Mayweather and Pacquiao, you're going to get a lot of angry people that are not happy customers.
Hey, final thought before we let you go, Teddy. They're charging $100 for this fight on pay-per-view. What would you pay if it was up to you to just watch it for your curiosity standpoint? Or if you're an average fan out there and you want to spend your hard money, what's the most you would pay to watch this fight on pay-per-view?
Again, we're dealing, we shouldn't have to qualify that. We should always try to be honest. And I would spend $100 if I have that curiosity. And look, I just said what I said. I said consumer beware. I said that. Consumer beware. But you know what? If you're a Rolling Stone fan and you want to go see the Rolling Stones, you still go there because you like the Rolling Stones, you like that music, you like what they've been about, and you still go there. They're 70 years old, but you're still paying that price because you like the Rolling Stones. If you like MMA, if you like boxing, if you're curious about this, you pay the $100.
Teddy Atlas, one of the best boxing analysts of all time. Thanks for joining us, Teddy. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Oh, he's great. He does. I was shocked at the end there where I didn't think he would say he would spend a dime. He still said he would spend the $100 for it. I wouldn't. I'll spend about $15 to watch it just because I have to watch it. I want to watch it. It is my job. I got to see this fight. But I think, too, it's the foolish once, shame on us, or foolish once, shame on you, foolish twice, shame on us type thing. Fans feel burned. They got burned 2 years ago with Mayweather, Pacquiao, and they don't want to get burned again. All right, Dave Portnoy, Barstool Sports. Saturdays are for the boys, one bite only. This guy, he just did the Late Show with Seth Meyers, Comedy Central. He's all over the place. He's coming up next with me, Marc James, and the Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio.
This is the Jim Rome Show with guest host Marc James.
Hour 3 of the Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio. Marc James, the sub-pimp in the box, the Jimmy Garoppolo to Rome's Tom Brady today, coming to you live from Boston, the greatest sports city in America. Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts studios. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. Our next guest, I got this long intro for him because, he's literally living the American dream that each and every one of us could only wish we are. He created Barstool Sports, and unless you've been in prison or cryogenically frozen for the better part of the last 6 to 8 years, BarstoolSports.com, Barstool Sports period, is one of the hottest viral sites on the planet. Their merchandising is ingenious. He does these legendary pizza reviews, one bite only. Saturdays are for the boys. Now we welcome to the jungle for the first time ever the founder, the owner, the president, Stool Presidente, Dave Portnoy. Great to have you. Before we get into everything, how about that episode of Game of Thrones last night? Were you blown away?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm a huge Thrones guy. So it's probably the best episode, right? I mean, every episode this season I think has been really good. But, yeah, it was electric. I felt like I gambled. I felt like I bet on the game. I need to relax after. I couldn't go right to sleep afterwards. It was great.
It was unbelievable. All right, so you guys did this a whole week long at the Super Bowl, Comedy Central, which was, they had huge ratings on that. You just did The Late Show with Seth Meyers on NBC. Everything, Barstool Sports, I got to get to win, because you used to work for the Boston Globe, right? Back in the day?
No.
Okay, but
totally
no, Boston Globe had a picture.
You got to get your facts together. No.
I saw a picture. The Globe had a picture of you way back in the day. But when did you come up with this, Barstool Sports, and when did it all begin?
So it started as a newspaper. Maybe that's the confusion.
Yeah.
It was like a 4-page black and white, like a kind of gambling news rag. But it started 2004, so it's been around for a little while now.
Yep. And then how did you get it to where it is? Because I'm at Patriot Place last week, and here's an anecdotal story, Dave. Dave Portnoy joins us here on the Jim Rome Show. I'm walking around. It's after business hours. Just some of the places are open up. All the stores are closed. And I walk by this place, and I see this huge sign, Tom Brady Shrine. And right on the front window is the Barstool Sports flag. So I go up to the door, and like I said, it's closed. It's Olympia Sports. And I look inside, and as soon as you walk in the door, I see the Barstool Sports Larry Bird jersey and all the merchandise. I'm like, man, these guys are pervasive. They're ubiquitous. You guys are everywhere. How did you do this and get this product placement all over the place?
Yeah, it's been a long grind, but so we started in Boston. That's, I'd say, our biggest city still, but we're bigger than the Northeast. So like a place like Olympia Sports, they sell our gear. Like the kids nowadays, and when I say kids, young guys, it's a hot brand. So people want to wear it. If people want to wear it, people want to sell it. But it's been just, a long time delivering newspapers. I always do like my shtick brick by brick, but it's not an overnight success, word of mouth. And we have a ton of loyal fans and loyal readers that have grown over the past decade. So it's definitely not an overnight thing. It's just something that's built up over time.
Dave Portnoy, Stool Presidente, here on the Jim Rome Show from CBS Sports Radio with Marc James. There is this thing that you guys have on your Instagram of this girl who tried doing a backflip on a bar this week, and you got over 1.5 million views on that. I don't know where you found that, but I'm like, oh, and one of the things, and I did do a lot of research on you, Dave, so I loved on YouTube your epic red carpet at the AVN Awards, the porn awards in Vegas a couple years ago. I thought that was off the chain.
Yeah, that's like that's almost my Mona Lisa. That's one of the favorite video chains that people have done. They like that. I think it was a three or 4 part YouTube extravaganza where I was doing all sorts of stuff. I you name it, I did it there. Weird event.
Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports here on the Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio. All right, if before Mayweather and McGregor coming up on August 26th at MGM Grand in Las Vegas, if I could legally talk to Dana White and the powers that be and put you in an octagon with Roger Goodell, would you go for it?
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I'd have to be 30. He's a huge guy, so that could end up bad for me. But it'd be worth it. I'd have to get a cut, but yeah, it'd be worth it.
When does your hatred for him, was it before Brady or because of the whole Tom Brady fiasco?
It was the Brady fiasco. I mean, I never liked Goodell, but I really didn't have any problem with it until Deflategate erupted.
Yeah, and the fact, like, what was your feeling? Because I saw, you were at Reliant Stadium for Super Bowl 51 last year, and it was 28-3, and you showed, and you stuck in, unlike somebody else, Mark Wahlberg, who decided to leave the game early, you stuck it out. So
I made a halftime. Not only that, I said we were going to win at halftime. So I would never. As crazy that Wahlberg left, I know he said that his kids were sick, which sounded like a crap excuse. But anybody who's a legitimate Patriots fan or has watched this team for the past 15, 20 years, I mean, how could you ever leave? The Patriots are never dead. They're the greatest franchise in the history of sports. So clearly, and they're playing the Atlanta Falcons, and the Falcons are the Falcons. So there was never, as crazy as it sounds, I always thought we were going to win that game. I was also at the Super Bowl, the Marshawn Lynch, the interception, Malcolm Butler. That game, that was over. Like, that one was a bigger shock to me. I was slumped in my seat. That game, I had resigned myself to the fact that we had lost because I just didn't think there was any way we were keeping them out of the end zone. And if they ran the ball, we obviously won it. I always thought we were going to come back on the Falcons. Maybe for a second, the catch on the sidelines with Jones, that maybe for a second I had doubt, but every play we needed, we made in that game. There was never a moment when I'm like, oh, it's over. I always thought the Patriots were going to win that game.
Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports joining us here on the Jim Rome Show with Marc James on CBS Sports Radio. And you got T-shirts there on BarstoolSports.com, which I thought are hilarious. It has the score with 2:12 left in the third quarter, Atlanta 28, New England 3. And on the back, it has New England 34, Atlanta 28. Those got to be hot sellers, but no more than you speaking of the Super Bowl, then after that, as the Patriots are getting back on the plane to fly back to Logan in New England, defensive coordinator Matt Patricia wears the Barstool T-shirt with Roger Goodell as the clown on it, and still to this day, it's got to make you feel good that a report came out like a week ago, Dave, that Goodell is still pissed that Patricia wore that T-shirt. How good does that make you feel?
Yeah, he's just so sensitive. He's just such an egomaniac. Sense of the fact that they're still talking about this, that he's still bothered by the clown shirt, is amazing. But yeah, it's. I like Matt. I'm actually friendly with Matt, so I feel bad that he's kind of got in trouble. I actually saw him at the Super Bowl party the night before, and he actually just offhand, he's like, hey, I'm going to wear the clown shirt tomorrow. Like, oh, that's cool. And then it became this huge national story, clearly. And the fact that Goodell is still upset about it, so we bought 70,000 Goodell clown towels that we'll be handing out for opening night past Chiefs. And we want the whole stadium to basically be a sea of turquoise because that's the color. We know it bothers Goodell. Goodell's supposedly going to be there, so we want him to see it everywhere he goes. Ingenious
marketing by Dave Portnoy and Barstool Sports. And
believe it or not, it's not just marketing. I just hate him so much. I want him to see
it. Do you think the NFL will allow those towels to get into Gillette?
Can the NFL stop that?
Well, I don't know.
Rhetorical and a physical. If you take a towel and stick it in your pants, how are they going to stop you?
Right, this is true.
A towel into a stadium.
Well, they do wanding now, and they could maybe. He's showing. Apparently, he's coming to that game.
I know. That's why we're doing it.
Right. So you can. Here's the thing about it. And I don't like Roger Goodell. I think he's the worst commissioner in the history of the NFL.
Nobody with a functioning brain likes Roger Goodell. He's a criminal.
Right, like Roger Goodell dropped the like Roger Goodell. I don't care what anyone says. You know, and I know that after week 1 of the 2014 NFL season, don't tell me when Harvey Levin broke that TMZ tape of Ray Rice knocking out his then fiancee Janae Rice in an elevator in Atlantic City. Don't tell me that was the first time that tape came across Roger Goodell's office. I don't believe that at all.
Roger Goodell tried to say last week that people who play the NFL have healthier lives than people who don't play the NFL. I think he was comparing lifestyles of a poor tribe in, some remote country that has no access to medicine. They don't live as long as NFL players. I mean, nobody lies with more conviction and a straight face thinking the general public is stupid than Roger Goodell. And you mentioned the Ray Rice thing. It was Ray Rice. What he did to the Saints with the Bounty Gate is a disgrace. Even what the thing that happened in Incognito is a disgrace. The man, Greg Hardy, the man has mismanagement. All his job to do really is to keep the NFL on the train tracks. And they make money. They make money, and that's why they keep him, but they make money to spite him because he is the worst PR commissioner in the history of civilization. Every major scandal he has botched, from, like you said, Ray Rice to Bullygate to obviously Deflategate. I think even people who hate the Patriots know that was a frame job. So he's a disgrace. The fact he's still in power is a disgrace.
Stool Presidente, Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports here on the Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio with Marc James. And the fact that the Patriots came back in that way and Roger Goodell had to present the trophy to Robert Kraft, to me, was poetic justice. When it was all said and done, like, you suspended Tom Brady for 4 games, not because Tom Brady was guilty, because you could. That's all it was. It's because the courts of this country said that you could, so you pulled the power play and did it without any hard evidence whatsoever. It's like convicting someone without even having a trial at all. And that's what they did to Brady, and he came back. I thought when it was all said and done, it was the most unbelievable. And then how about this BS excuse about him not showing up at the AFC Championship game because he was going to be somewhere? I'm like, you kidding me? That's like, it's just ridiculous. And the fact that a guy, Dave, who made $44 million last year is still so insecure and so pissed off over a Barstool t-shirt tells me that Barstool is winning. Barstool is winning. Listen, Dave, you could say every word if I made $25 million, if I made $5 million last year, and you want to do some t-shirt about me, you can knock yourself out. I wouldn't lose any sleep, and I wouldn't need Ambien like Roger Goodell is, and still be upset 7 months later.
Yeah, it's insane. It's hard. It's hard to pin him down. He's just, I think, so detached from reality, and I've always called him a dictator, and he is. It's tough to understand how somebody like that can still be at the helm of the most popular, really, sports league in the world.
All right, let's do some rapid fire here with you. You ready?
Sure.
All right, best Boston movie of all time: The Departed, Good Will Hunting, The Fighter, Mystic River, Black Mass, or The Town?
I give it a Good Will Hunting.
All right. Word association, first thing that comes to mind, a word, a sentence, whatever. Bill Belichick.
Genius.
Tom Brady.
Best ever.
Bill Simmons.
Gross.
Darren Ravel.
Like him.
Rob Gronkowski.
Beast.
Johnny Manziel, who I know you're good friends with.
Yeah, friend. That's actually what came to my mind.
Okay. The city of Atlanta.
Sad.
Clay Travis.
Fraud.
Doc Rivers.
Blah.
Brad Stevens.
Good coach.
How about Isaiah Thomas?
Good player.
Deadspin.
Dead.
And the Yankees.
Don't care. I know that's a weird one, but I don't even view them as a rival anymore.
Where will Barstool be in 5 to 10 years?
Hopefully we'll just we'll be a national brand. Everyone, not only Northeast people, some people still are like, hey, what's Barstool, even though you gave that great introduction. But hopefully everybody will. Either if you don't love us, you'll hate us. And that'll go across the entire country.
Oh, no, I think it already is. What part of Boston are you from, by the way?
North Shore.
Oh, look at you, North Shore. All right, from Western Mass, Springfield. So, about an hour away, but I'm here now.
Yeah, Basketball Hall of Fame.
That's right, man. All right, Dave Portnoy. Follow him on Twitter, Stool Presidente, Barstool Sports, BarstoolSports.com. By the way, my father's the biggest Patriots fan in the world. He loves that Goodell T-shirt, so you're going to get some money out of me. I got to get one for him.
All right, I love it. Thank you.
All right, Dave, there he is. From Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy. No punches pulled on Roger Goodell. I think when it's all said and done, man, he has to answer to the owners, Roger Goodell, that is, and it's like, he botched the Ray Rice thing. He botched the Greg Hardy thing. I think he definitely botched Deflategate. That's a joke. That should have never happened. Whether you like the Patriots or not, they had no hard evidence on Brady. The only thing they had on Brady was that when they asked him for a cell phone, Brady had already trashed it because he goes through, I mean, like you change cell phones when you're a walking multimedia conglomerate that is Tom Brady. You're a brand. You go through cell phones. The only thing they had on Brady, but just 72,500 towels from Barstool Sports with Roger Goodell's face on it as a clown will be handed out on opening night when the Patriots hang their fifth banner at Gillette Stadium and welcome in Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. And the funny thing is Roger Goodell will be there, but mark my words on this one. Roger Goodell will do everything in his power to make sure that NFL security do not allow those towels to get into Gillette that night. Mark my words. All right, I'll come back. We'll get to your phone calls more on the Kaepernick situation. 800-636-8686. 800-636-8686. I'm Mark James, and this is The Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio.
You're listening to The Jim Rome Show.
Welcome back to the Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio. It's Mark James. Thanks to Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports for stopping by. No love lost for Roger Goodell. And apparently in the media, there is no love loss for Brock Osweiler. As I thought one of the most interesting exchanges over the weekend between a member of the media and Brock Osweiler, who was trying to put his big $72 million contract and the fact that he completely failed in Houston in the past and saying that he's all about Cleveland now and he's turned everything around. Well, somebody, and I love people in the media who do not let athletes off the hook. I absolutely love it. These athletes, all these pro athletes, they're so used to being worshipped and deified and genuflected. And when somebody in the media stands up to them, they don't like the pushback. Well, here's the contentious and somewhat uncomfortable exchange which took place at Browns training camp this weekend.
I'm not going to compare the two situations because, one, they're two different teams. They're two different systems, offensively, how we do things. My sole focus right now is on this system, this team, and being my absolute best I can possibly be for the Cleveland Browns.
But are you good enough to be a starting quarterback in this league? I mean, regardless of the system.
Absolutely.
Why?
I think the proof is in the film for the past 2 years.
But some people would say the proof's not in the film from last year.
It's okay.
Whoever that media guy is, that is great. And listen, Brock, it's been a tough. I mean, listen, anytime someone gets paid, here comes a criticism, and the job, along with being a head coach in the NFL, is being a starting quarterback in the NFL. It, to me, is the most high-profile position in sports. But listen to the end there. Let's go back, Alvin DeLauro, and say the proof is in the film the last 2 years. Listen to this state. You wonder if Brock went OJ and he really believes the lies and BS that are coming out of his mouth. Let's hear that again.
My sole focus right now is on this system, this team, and being my absolute best I can possibly be for the Cleveland Browns.
But are you good enough to be a starting quarterback in this league? I mean, regardless of the system.
Absolutely.
Why?
I think the proof is in the film for the past 2 years.
But some people would say the proof's not in the film from last year.
It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Brock Osweiler did actually have a pretty good 2015. He's the one that they were going to make the heir apparent to Peyton Manning. And then he had a really bad game towards the end of the regular season, and they benched him. I want to say it might have been against San Diego or the Raiders or something like that. And they benched him, and they brought back Peyton Manning for the playoffs. And, of course, the Broncos carried Peyton Manning to a Super Bowl. The Broncos won in spite of Peyton Manning, not because of him. I mean, his arm was shot. He was throwing ducks. He was throwing picks. If you go back and look at that postseason, back in 2015, Peyton Manning, I believe if my memory serves me correct, and sometimes it can be a little off, Peyton Manning in that postseason, I believe, had 2 touchdown passes that entire postseason in 2015. He was literally carrying. I mean, like Trent Dilfer did more for the Ravens in 2000. Jeff Hostetler did more for the Giants in 1990 than Peyton Manning did in 2015. He might have 2 Super Bowl rings on his resume, but he only is responsible for one of them. Really. I mean, he was awful the entire postseason. And he even joked about it when he was hosting the ESPYs. But he had like 2 touchdown passes that entire postseason. And people, like, it's funny to me when people compare Brady to Manning. To me, it's like the Michael Jordan to LeBron. LeBron is closer than Brady Manning. And I think LeBron is an absolute landslide for Jordan. I think it's a joke. I think it's a disservice. And how about Michael Jordan throwing shade on LeBron, saying that Kobe was better than LeBron? I'm not going to go there. That's where I draw the line. Kobe Bryant was absolute quadruple garbage the last 4 years of his career. After he won his last title in 2010, he sucked. He stole a check from the Lakers. He handicapped and compromised that franchise and stole $24.5 million a year. And the way he went out and the way people celebrated his final game where he scored 60 points on 50 shots was a joke. And to me, I take a lot, and I don't think LeBron will go out that way. And you know me, if you've listened to this show, I am no LeBron fan by any stretch of the imagination. Plain and simple. 800-636-8686. Let's squeeze McDougal in Houston here on the Jim Rome Show. Hello, McDougal.
How you doing?
Great.
I'm calling about Mr. Kaepernick. I pronounce his name wrong all the time. I screw it up all the time. But I'll say this first. I'm African-American. I'm also a Navy disabled veteran who served my country in 2 wars.
We appreciate your services, sir. We appreciate your services.
Thank you. And I'm very, very disgusted at his behavior, his insult, his embarrassment to this country, for everybody who lives here, especially those of us who have served, in war. And I dare this guy disgrace his country and play this card like he's been racially discriminated against, and when actually he has been benefited from this country. You know, if anything, he should be the poster child for young Black American kids on how to succeed in this country as an African American. But what he does is the opposite. He plays a victim. How can he be a victim when he hasn't been racially discriminated against? And then for people to come out and say that they had to boycott the NFL, they don't let this guy play, is ridiculous. It was his job. He volunteered to play in the NFL, and he's paid a very good salary to do it. If he doesn't like it, quit and become a community organizer and do that and leave football alone.
McDougal, listen, first and foremost, we appreciate the time. We're up against it, but appreciate your service to this country, and you make all valid points on Colin Kaepernick. Here's the end of the day. I think, is Colin Kaepernick good enough to be a backup on an NFL roster? Unequivocally, yes. Undoubtedly, undeniably, he has. But at the end of the day, Colin Kaepernick put himself in this position. He was the one who consciously decided to take a knee for the national anthem. And now he's dealing with the residual consequences thereafter. Nobody held a gun to his head. You made your bed, you got to lie in it. What Colin Kaepernick did was perceived and I think was un-American. People could say the same thing what the NFL owners are doing to him, but at the end of the day, they have the power. He does not. They sign the front of the checks. He signs the back of the checks. Plain and simple. Time to finish strong, like the Game of Thrones episode last night. Marc James here on the Jim Rome Show on CBS Sports Radio. It's time now to answer your Ask the Pros question, where you, the clones, get to submit a question at cbssportsradio.com/askthepros. Brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Sign up to be an O'Reilly Rewards member today and earn $5 back for every $150 you spend. Hurry in to O'Reilly Auto Parts today. Sign up and start earning every time you shop. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. I've got two here, so we're going to get to two of them. First one, Cobb in Louisville, who said Portnoy's favorite Boston movie was Good Will Hunting. What is your favorite Boston movie? War the Town, The Departed, a close second. Well, Cobb, you answered your question to me in your question. I'm all about The Town, man. I'm all about The Town. I thought Ben Affleck did an amazing job directing that, and Jeremy Renner stole the show. A lot of great actors were in that movie. Affleck, Renner, John Hamm, who played Don Draper on Mad Men. Blake Lively was also in that movie. Great movie that was quintessential Boston. And I felt as though, I think that movie was released in September 2010. Usually when you have movies released after the summer, they don't get the pub, but I'm glad afterwards on demand and being played on every movie channel that The Town has gotten a ton of. I love The Town, but I would say Good Will Hunting's right behind it. And from Bella being Calgary, one of my favorite clones, she emailed in, "Hi, Mark. Most clones aren't aware that you have 3 different degrees from 3 different universities. If you weren't a sportscaster, what would you be doing?" That's a great question. Bella, I think I'd be working for Harvey Levin at TMZ or Drew Rosenhaus and his sports agency down in Miami, or who knows, maybe the guy that we had at the top of the hour, Dave Portnoy. Maybe I'd be working for Barstool. Maybe I will be working for Barstool one day in the future. Who knows? I mean, Barstool's, out of all 3 of those, I'd probably want to work for Barstool because they're trending like Apple right now. They're trending way up. But that's a great question, and appreciate you guys emailing in the Ask the Pros question. To get in, we're going to close out strong. Clones, you got about 10 minutes left. 800-636-8686. It's 800-636-8686 to get in. If you want to chime in about Kaepernick, the Jay Cutler situation, let me just put a bow on the Kaepernick thing. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't like Colin Kaepernick. I never liked him when he came out. I think that was a horrible draft for quarterbacks. I actually covered that draft. It was the Cam Newton draft, who ended up winning an MVP, and then last year ended up having the worst year of his career, completing less than 60% of his passes. That's what Kaepernick is. He's completed less than 60% of his passes in his career. I think they had Blaine Gabbert was in that draft, Jake Locker was in that draft, and Christian Ponder was in that draft. That was a horrible draft. And Kaepernick, to me, this is what you get. When you want to go out, and the thing about Kaepernick, and I haven't said this early in the show, but I'm going to say it again, prior to him losing his job to Blaine Gabbert, Kaepernick was about flexing his muscles in shirtless selfies on Instagram, hooking up with models. And there's nothing wrong with that. Then all of a sudden, the dude woke up one day and wanted to become Malcolm X after he lost his job. He wanted to bring attention to himself. So I think from that standpoint, and the thing about Kaepernick is, I don't have a problem with you standing up for the oppressed. But then you come out afterwards and you completely contradict your stance when you took a knee for the national anthem and you come out wearing a Fidel Castro t-shirt. And someone who lived in Miami, and someone who has a lot of friends who are Cuban in Dade in Broward County and know what Fidel Castro, what that guy symbolizes to the Cuban people in Miami. How can you sit there and play the role of the martyr when you wear a Fidel Castro t-shirt and then you say on top of that that you endorse Fidel Castro because of what he did for education in Cuba? So at that point, your credibility is shot to hell from a political civil rights standpoint. At that point, you have no credibility with me. And then on top of that, you go on and you wear socks with pigs on them, wearing police hats, and then you come out and you call law enforcement in America, quote, slave catchers? Man, at that point, I'm just talking about Kaepernick from a football standpoint. Do I believe he should be on a team? Yes. But do I have a problem with all 32 NFL owners who are currently blackballing him? No, I don't. So, yes, you're good enough, Kaepernick, to be on an NFL team. You're better than Luke McCown. You're better than Austin Davis and the garbage quarterbacks like Nathan Peterman and Bryce Petty and Josh McCown and Christian Hackenberg on the Jets. Yes, you are. But you put yourself in this situation. You made your bed. Now you have to lie in it, plain and simple. So guess what? If I was an NFL owner and I needed a quarterback, would I bring in Kaepernick right now? It's a great question. It depends on the situation. If my team had a chance at winning, if I was the Jets, I wouldn't bring him in. If I was the Cowboys or the Seahawks, I would bring him in because I feel as though that the Cowboys and Seahawks have a chance to win this year because they've made the playoffs last year. So I would bring Kaepernick in if I was a team that if I need an insurance policy for Dak Prescott or Russell Wilson, I would bring Kaepernick in. But I also know that it's going to hurt the bottom line. And I'm going to get fans boycotting. And I'm going to get pissed off season ticket holders that might never come back. So you got to measure all of those factors in. Go into the phones for the final 8 minutes of the show. 800-636-8686. Let's go back down to my former stomping grounds in the 813-727 Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater to Jarvis. You're on the Jim Rome Show. What's up, Jarvis?
Hey, nothing much, man. And hey, thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to say a few things real quick if I can. I wanted to give a shout-out to Pee Wee Reese, and I wanted to know if you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, the former baseball player. Absolutely.
Exactly, and for the people who out there who don't know, Pee Wee Reese is the white guy who went over there and put his arm around Jackie Robinson. And a lot of people didn't agree with Jackie Robinson playing baseball, and we're talking about mainly the Caucasians. Didn't agree with him playing on the baseball field. But when the Pee Wee Reese guy went over and put his arm around him, it said a lot, and it diffused a lot, too. Now, we can say whether it was right or wrong, whether Jackie Robinson was out there or not, or whether he was changing things or not. That's just up to discussion. But I just wanted to say, they always talk about the NFL being a real close-knit family, especially inside the locker rooms. They see no color inside the locker rooms. I hear that over and over, and I'm 58 years old, so I've heard that all my life. But when Colin Kaepernick took a knee, nobody still refused to talk about why he took a knee. We're talking about everything else now, and I just want to say this real quick. He took a knee because he's seen some things that were going on television that he just didn't agree with. Now, a lot of people don't agree with the way he took the stance, but black people have been talking and we've been crying for years, man, for years. So maybe that's just the way. He didn't know no other way, whether we agree with it or not. But I wish somebody in the locker room would have came out, one of the Caucasian guys would have came out and maybe just put his arm around Kaepernick and say, I see what you see, Kaepernick, and I see what you see what's going on, and I'm just going to put my arm around you, and maybe that would have eased the pain a little bit. And let me just say this before I go off, and I appreciate this time, but I want people out there within the sound of my voice to know that everything that black people's done in America, they had to write a law for it to be done. Like, for an example, when we wanted to sit at restaurants in the 1950s, this isn't long ago. This is like 65, 70 years ago. When we wanted to sit in restaurants, they boycotted. They sick
dogs on us. Jarvis, and listen, I appreciate your phone call, and I see where you're going, and and listen, I mean, I totally empathize and understand the plight of everything that you're talking about. The one thing I will say to what you're saying and going back in history, Colin Kaepernick never had to endure the things that you are referring to. Okay? Now, he wanted to stick up for the oppressed. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. You want to take a stance politically, socially, that's fine. But now, there are consequences to every decision that we make in this world. Just like Johnny Manziel in a different way. Johnny Manziel decided to become Johnny Crackhead and Johnny Druggy. And by the way, you might think that's harsh. There's a quote, you can Google it, from his father, Paul Manziel, who calls him a, quote, druggie. So I'm just quoting his dad, the man who's partly responsible for bringing Johnny Manziel into this world. Johnny Manziel made so many decisions that he's not someone who's a criminal. He's a knucklehead. He's a bonehead. He's an idiot, but he's not a criminal. And those decisions, 32 NFL teams said, we're not going to have you. Ray Rice made a decision in the elevator in Atlantic City. So the NFL blackballed him. Adrian Peterson had to pay. He was suspended for the better part of the 2014 season. He's allowed to come back after serving that suspension, albeit paid. There are consequences to every decision that people make. Colin Kaepernick is paying for his decision a year ago, and those repercussions are rearing themselves in his unemployment. All right, real quick, Jarvis.
Okay, real quick. Let me just say this about Fidel Castro. Listen, the stories that we hear about Fidel Castro is from our history books and what we hear about him. Listen, he's the only person that protected his island. All the other islands out there are owned by Caucasians and British rule. Now just think about that for a minute. He stood up for his island, but the narrative we got is that he's such a bad person. And I'm not agreeing with Fidel Castro, but we're quick over here in America to point fingers at what he done, and yet we still yet to talk about what we done to Black America and what continues to be done with Black America, but yet we'll continue to point fingers at other people. Thank you for your time, man, and have a great day.
All right, Jarvis, thank you. Let's go to Justin and Hollister on the Jim Rome Show. What's up, Justin?
Not much. How you doing, Mark?
Great.
So first of all, I just want to preface this by saying I'm totally on board with you. I can't stand Colin Kaepernick ever since he came out. The guy's a total bag. I'm a Raider fan, and a Cal Bear fan, so I've hated him for a long time. Anyways, let's put all that aside, and I just want to stop with the BS. That's all. I just want no more BS. Let's not call this thing something that it's not. If both sides could just be honest, I think it would be a lot better. Honestly, it makes no sense at all for Colin Kaepernick to protest police by sitting out the national anthem, right? It doesn't make any sense. Stupid. But it also makes no sense to say that means that he's un-American, he hates America, that he hates the military. You know, these are all just straw man arguments. You're trying to build up this guy to be something that he's not because you don't agree with one thing that he did. And it's just a bunch of BS, you know? I mean, the guy's not a good guy.
Justin, appreciate the phone call. Appreciate all your phone calls. You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is Mark James, M-A-R-C James. Thank you to the executive producer, Adam Hawk, Alvin DeLauro. Everybody called, everybody listened. Thank you to Billy Corbin, Teddy Atlas, Dave Portnoy, and the fine folks at Entercom Boston, WEEI, Phil Zachary, Joe Zarbano, and Lou Muse for allowing me to use the studio. The bottom line is this. When the owners sign the front of the checks, they can do whatever they want. And Kaepernick's going to find that out the hard way. I don't think his NFL career is over, but I wouldn't doubt if it is over. Thank you for joining. And like Kevin Durant, Oklahoma City,